We've done most of the basic stuff on the overhook side. The overhook attacks are pretty straightforward. There's not too many intricate grip fighting sequences there. Whereas when you start to get into the cross wrist and double cross wrist grips on the underhook side, you start to get really deep into some rabbit holes there. We're going to talk about now finishing from the underhook side. Right now, when we're finished from the underhook side, you have the ability to trap both of your partner's hands. So much more prevalent is not only a dilemma between attacking your partner's neck and trapping hands, but you have a trilemma between trying to trap one of your partner's hands, trying to trap both of your partner's hands with a double cross, and trying to attack your partner's neck. So while you're trying to, from the overhook side, trap one of your partner's hands or attack their neck, from the underhook side, you're trying to trap one of their hands, two of their hands, or three of their hands. Okay, or sorry, one of their hands, two of their hands, or threat to submission. So it's a lot more high pace from the underhook side. There's a lot more hand pummeling going on, and we're going to take a look at some of that going on now. We're also going to look at going into the mechanics of a garrote, a single arm rear naked, and the mechanics of a mandible strangle, which we didn't cover in the overhook side. We're going to cover it now because a lot of what you're going to be doing from the underhook side will be mandible strangles, because it's a lot harder, again, to get underneath your partner's jaw when you're fighting from the underhook side. So we're going to look at that in addition to how we can actually lock a strangle when we're on the underhook side, how we can align our elbow and our shoulder line as a straight line along the mat, so that we can easily extract our hand and punch into a rear strangle. So just a little overview of what we're going to be doing right now. There's a lot of grip fighting, a lot of upper body movement going on here. All right, so now let's look at the underhook side. So we're always going to have defensive hand in place. I'm teaching you assuming you're training with someone or competing against someone who's actually good. I'm giving you all the proper defensive reactions to what your partner should be doing. Okay. So we're going to be in the underhook, down the underhook side, and we're going to start utilizing a single cross wrist grip. Okay. So the initial strategy is always to use the grip fighting strategies that we looked at in the beginning of the finishing portion of the series to get rid of your partner's primary defensive hand, to trap your partner's primary defensive hand. Whether it's a 10-finger S grip, whether it's a multi-directional grip break, you want to always clear your partner's primary defensive hand, because that's where the whole series starts. Okay? If you can't clear your partner's primary defensive hand, you can't do anything else really. Okay? So what we're going to look to do now is we're going to look to switch to a single cross wrist grip, where I go to threaten pulling my hand up and across my partner's shoulders and locking in a strangle. My partner will always reach with her secondary hand and try to pull my wrist down. Okay, otherwise I'm going to strangle her. As she pulls my wrist down, we're going to shoot. We're going to resist for a certain amount of time, but as she goes to pull that wrist down, we're going to shoot the hand down, and then our primary hand, which our control hand, which is controlling our partner's primary defensive hand, is going to reach across and grab a single wrist grip like so. Okay? Once we have a single wrist grip, now from here, we can fire our leg up and over, again, catching at the wrist, making sure that we put a long hook in place, like so that as I go to catch this and step over my bottom hook, because again, we're opening that circle that we had closed around our partner's hips, so we have to make sure that we plan for this and shoot a long hook into place. So as we fire our leg up and over the wrist, we switch to a long hook and we catch. Now, we look to take our shoelaces underneath our partner's wrist, and now we cross our two ankles. Once again, heels coming back, knees coming together, and we're ready to go. Now, as our partner keeps the hand in front, we stay in front. If she pommels behind, same thing, we pommel behind. And now from here, we can switch back to the primary hand. The control hand comes back into place. My partner has her hand in place. We use the same series of grip breaks that we looked at before to separate our partner's hands.
And now we have the best case scenario. 1 versus none. One of my offensive hands versus 0 of my partner's defensive hands, where we only have to deal with getting underneath my partner's jaw, and now we can easily break through to a win. Okay? So we're in. She has 2 defensive hands in place. First line of offense is always to take our partner's primary defensive hand out of the equation, which means she has to do some amount of fighting with her secondary defensive hand. When she reaches up, she pulls my hand down. I resist. As she gives a strong pull, I shoot my hand down, and I feed to my control hand to a cross wrist. Now, when I grab a cross wrist grip, it's very important that I cover the weakness of my one-on-one grip with the mass of her body. If I just arbitrarily grab out here somewhere and she goes to strip her hand off, she can easily pommel the space between my fingers. So I glue her hand to her own body. So now, what prevents her from exposing the weakness of my one-on-one is the mass of her own body. When she goes to pommel her hand out, she runs into her own stomach. And this gives me more than enough time now to fire my leg up and over. As I open the circle, I switch to a long hook, and I fire this leg up and over. Now from here, we lace our partner's hand through so that our shoelaces are underneath our partner's forearm. Now we cross our 2 ankles. If at any point your partner, you'll see some of the rolling footage just happened, if your partner reaches down and tries to fiddle around with your leg and peel your leg off and step over the hook, you can physically grab your own leg and pull it up. So now you close the circle once again around your partner's body. So when she goes to step over that hook now, it's impossible. She can't get in between the space between your hand and your own leg. You have a closed circle. And now when she goes to go over that hook, it's impossible. We can lock our 2 feet together. Your partner will obviously bring a defensive hand back into place, otherwise she's going to get finished. And when she does that, now we come in, we grab her wrist, and we use that same series of grip breaks to separate our partner's hands. Now we have a true 1 versus none. And that's what we want. Whether it's in front of the body or behind the body, we're ready to go.
So now let's look at the connection between the single cross wrist grip and the double cross wrist grip. There's an interesting dilemma that goes on here when your partner's trying to respond defensively. When we have our partner in place, we strip an initial grip, she goes to pull my hand down, and now we switch to a single cross wrist grip. Now, your partner knows if this hand stays trapped for any amount of time, it's going to get trapped by the legs. And once the hand's trapped by the legs, now this hand's getting trapped by the hands, and now they have no defensive hands. So what a lot of people start doing is they start reaching down and grabbing your hand with their secondary hand and looking to strip that grip off so that now they don't have any of their hands trapped and they can put their defensive hands back in place. Okay? So the second my partner goes to reach for that hand, so she has defensive hands in, the second she goes to reach for that hand, I immediately catch it with my opposite hand. And now we shear the hands apart. My underhook hand is always going to be on bottom, and my overhook hand is always going to be on top. I'm never going to put my overhook hand on bottom towards my partner's hip. It doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to trap my partner's I'm trying to trap my partner's left arm, so I want to push that arm as far as I can down towards the hips. I don't want to bring it up towards the face in the opposite direction because now it's hard for me to get my ankle up and over. Okay? So I grab her hand with a single cross wrist. She tries to strip my hand because if she can, now when I go to strangle her, she has 2 defensive hands again. So when I go initially with a single cross, again, I glue my partner's hand, or my hand and my partner's hand, to her own body. When she goes to access my hand, I catch, and now I shear the hands apart by pushing her hand that I'm looking to trap down towards her hips and pulling her primary defensive hand up towards her face. Now I glue both hands to my partner's body. So when she goes to free both of her hands, it's not an easy thing. Now we go, ankle comes up, long hook goes in, we lace, we lock, and then we transition back to a trapped primary defensive hand, and now we're ready to go in for the win. Okay?
So we come through. We break the grip initially. She pulls the hand down. We switch to a single cross. She goes to respond by peeling my hand off. Smart idea by her. I go double cross. We shear. We pin. And now we trap. Okay? So we go for a single cross. No response. The hand traps easily. If we go for a single cross, she responds by trying to peel that grip. We go double cross. And then we trap the hand easily. Then we go back to a one-on-one. And then we go in for the finish.
So now let's take a look at a trilemma that's going on here. All right. So we looked at a dilemma. Now we're going to look at a trilemma between
a single cross wrist grip, a double cross wrist grip, and an attempted strangle. Okay? And the whole time, your partner's not worried about escaping here. They're worried about not getting their hands trapped and not getting finished. All right. So I strip my partner's grip off. She pulls the hand down. Now, I switch to a single cross wrist grip. Now, my partner is in a dilemma. One, if she grabs my wrist, she gives me a double cross. Now there's a trilemma because if she grabs my wrist to try to peel that hand off, there's no primary defensive hand defending the neck. And now I can punch her hand across and threaten to strangle. So what does she do? Does she grab my hand? Or does she keep her primary defensive hand in place and not let me strangle her? Okay, there's a trilemma here. If she does nothing, the hand gets trapped. If she grabs my wrist and hand to peel the grip off, I strangle her. If she grabs my wrist to peel the hand off, I switch to a double cross. So there's a lot of different things going on here. If she doesn't do anything, she gets her wrist trapped. If she grabs my wrist to try to peel it off, now she gets strangled. Does she stay in the wrist and try to peel the hand off? Or does she take her hand up and pull my hand down? If she goes in and tries to peel my hand off, I can go in and immediately switch and go through. Or I can try to strangle her as she pulls my hand down. Now I can pummel my hand around top and catch a cross wrist. All right, so the onus is on your partner now to determine what she's going to do. If she goes in and I'm threatening a strangle, she puts the primary hand in place, that's fine. Now if there's no strangle, and now we come in and trap our partner's hand. Okay? So the whole time we're trying to attack our partner's hands and trap them, we're also attacking the neck. The second I get to a single cross wrist grip, your partner has a choice. Do I address the gripping on the hand, or do I address the strangle? You can't just be trying to trap your partner's hands and just trap their hands. You should also be threatening the neck the whole time. So you're threatening a single cross, a double cross, and you're threatening and attacking your partner's neck. If she keeps the hands where they are, now this hand gets trapped. That's fine. She still has the primary hand in, but now she doesn't. She tries to go address my grips. Now I start going to strangle her. When she pulls my hand down, now I trap the hand as she's pulling the hand down. Or as she goes to pull the hand down, she pulls the hand all the way down, I switch to a cross wrist. Now I double cross, now we trap, and now we feed, and now we're ready to go. Okay, so you play a trilemma of a single cross, a double cross, and a strangle. And with those three in action, it's very, very hard to defend.
Let's take a look at now another way to trap our partner's hands other than using cross wrist. All right, as we talked about, there's both cross wrist gripping and straight wrist gripping, which we're going to talk about from the underhook side. Whereas primarily, when we talk on the overhook side, it's primarily straight wrist gripping.
So this time, we initially have defensive hands in place. We strip our partner's primary hand off, like so. Now, as we strip our partner's primary hand off, we're going to look to come up and extract completely our hand out behind our partner's shoulders. She's obviously not going to hold my hand out like so. What she's going to be doing is looking to come in and peel her hand off to free her defensive hand. So now when I go to punch my hand back across, she has a primary defensive hand back in place. I know that any intelligent opponent, the second I take my hand off, is immediately looking to clear this grip on her primary defensive hand. Okay, it's what's going to happen. So the second I clear this grip off, my partner I know is going to take her hand to the top of my hand to peel my hand off. So I know exactly where her hand's going to be. So as her hand goes to reach for my hand, I take an inside wrist grip and I just punch my partner's hand down towards her hips. So that now from here, we go to a long hook. We look to throw our leg up and over, like so. From this position, now we cross 2 ankles. And now, as we can both go to take our hands out, only mine comes free. Because the hand's coming down and our hands are both of our hands now are under the leg, a cross wrist grip is much different. We don't have any hand strap underneath the leg. Because our both hands are underneath the leg, as we go to pull the hand out, a lot of the times your partner's hand ends up behind the back. So as we both go to free our hands, a lot of times this happens. But not always. If your partner's trying to pull the hand back up towards you, a lot of times they'll end up in front of the body. But a lot of times, as you both go to pull your hands out, she tries to follow your hand back instinctually. You end up behind the back. But that won't always happen. Sometimes, if she's trying to pull the hand back up to defend, you end up right in front. Either way, when you both go to free the hands, only your hands come free. And then you can follow your partner either way. So we have defensive hands in place. We initially, opening gambit, always go to primary defensive hand. Now we pull this hand back, so now she can't see it. As she goes to address this hand, I know exactly where it's going to be. I punch this hand down. We go up and over. We catch. Now we have the hand trapped, and we're ready to go.
Now we're going to look at a more control-based method from using an inside wrist grip to trap an arm. There are some cases where we use opportunistic traps, and there are some situations where we use control-based traps. Okay, an opportunistic trap is where we just quickly punch our partner's hand down and throw a leg over. All right, where a partner kind of gets caught off guard, or you beat your partner in, and it happens a lot because they're worried about you strangling them. So you punch your partner's hand down, and before they know it, your leg's up and over, and you have their arm trapped. And there are also control-based methods where you're controlling your partner's hand. Your partner knows exactly what's going to happen, but they're wedged in place so they can't move, and then you eventually trap their hand. All right, so that was an opportunistic-based method of trapping your partner's hand, where you just quickly punch the hand down and throw the leg over. Now we're going to look at a control-based method where we use an inside wrist to switch to a cross grip method. All right, where we come through and we use this inside wrist grip here to initially punch our partner's hand down, and now we switch from a wrist to a cross grip. So instead of just throwing the leg up and over haphazardly and hoping that we catch our partner's arm, we feed to a cross wrist. And now we're back in the same trilemma we were talking about before. Okay? If she goes to clear my hand, I catch. If she doesn't do anything, I catch. If she goes to stop a strangle, I catch. And now we're back in business, ready to go with the same series we just looked at. Okay? So very, very similar. I extract the hand. She goes to peel my hand. I know where her hand's going to be. We come in, we catch, we peel this hand out and away. Now from here, instead of just throwing the leg up and over, or if I do go to throw the leg up and over, and she tucks her hand in towards her own body, it feeds right to a cross wrist. And the initial cross wrist is the only thing I need to start the entire series. You just reboot the system every time you get to a single cross wrist. If it fails, no worries. Peel primary defensive hand, come in, she goes to defend, we get to a single cross wrist. So this opening gambit every time from the underhook side is clear the initial defensive hand, the primary defensive hand, and then use that to threaten a strangle, and then as she goes to defend with the secondary hand, get to a single cross. Everything starts from here. Once you get here, you're in business. You're ready to go. You can start hitting your partner with a multitude of problems, which makes it incredibly difficult for them to defend one after the other. And the entire time, they're worried about not escaping, but defending the finish. So the way that I've been teaching you is to use mostly control-based methods to trap your partner's hand. They're much more effective, and in the long term, if you look at stats on you trying to attack your buddies or your friends or in competition, you'll see that the much more robust method is to use control-based methods with cross wrist grips to trap your partner's arms. But there are, again, opportunistic traps where your opponent pulls your hand down, and you just shoot your hand through, and you throw your leg up and over and trap your partner's arm. So let's take a look at one of those that we can throw in there as well. So we started off with using mostly control-based methods. If you guys are watching this sequentially in order, which I hope you are, otherwise it won't make sense. We're using mostly control-based methods to get your partner's arms trapped. Okay, so we've been using everything off single and double cross wrist grips, okay, which is by far the best way to trap your partner's arms. We looked at feeding into a single cross wrist and then going from there with a top hand. And we looked at using an opportunistic trap on our partner's hands by throwing our top hand up and over and punching their top hand down. Another way we can use an opportunistic trap is by initially clearing our partner's primary defensive hand. And now, instead of feeding to a cross wrist, when your partner pulls the hand down with her secondary hand, we can go to a cross wrist. This is the best. This is why I taught you at first, because this is by far the best way. But there also is the ability for, as your partner goes to pull that hand down, we shoot the hand down, and now we throw our leg up and over. Right now from here, we trap, we cross, and we're ready to go into all of our finishes. Okay, so just another opportunistic way to trap. I want to teach you guys the control-based method first, and now I'm starting to throw in a few opportunistic ways to trap your partner's arm as they go to pull your hands down. So most of the time, our partner goes to pull the hand down, we switch to a cross wrist, and everything begins from here. Okay. Now, as we go to as we start to get more advanced, as our partner goes to pull the hand down, we have a little bit more sensitivity in our legs where we can be more dexterous and find our partner's wrist as we throw our hand down quickly and snap our leg up and over and get through to the win. Okay, so there are a few opportunistic ways. Obviously, the best are cross grip control-based methods, but there are a few ways where we can quickly punch our partner's hand down or quickly punch our partner's hand down and trap like so. All right, but by far and away, the best ones to use are control-based methods with cross wrist, where your partner knows it's going to happen, but you still get through to the win. So now let's talk about top pummeling. We've looked at ways to trap our partner's hands with control-based methods, a few opportunistic ways to trap our partner's hands. Now let's look at the idea of top pummeling. Okay, when your partner goes to intercept your hand through transition and you pommel around their hand to top hand position. Okay, so for example, with any one of these transitions, let's say I get to a cross wrist, for example, I'm looking to trap my partner's arm. When I go to threaten to strangle, if I want to have a cross wrist grip, when she goes to intercept my hand, I can pommel my hand through and around and catch my partner's hand mid-motion. So as she goes to catch my hand, instead of just bringing my hand through, as she goes to, we're playing in here, as she goes to catch my hand, my hand comes out. So I physically put my hand further away than I wanted it to threaten to strangle, for example. And as she goes to intercept my hand, I pommel through and around, and I catch my partner's hands like so. Okay, this can be done from a variety of different places. Right? She goes to grab my hands, two defensive hands in place. We come through. We can take our hands and we can pommel our hand through and switch. And we can pommel our hands to top position by just pommeling our hands on top of our partner's hand. Take a look at that next. All right, but you can always use top pommels when your partner goes to catch your hand like so. Maybe she even has a grip, and I pommel my hand around and on top of my partner's hand. Okay, it's not a difficult thing to get good at. It's literally just rotating your palm towards your partner's hand and then shooting it through towards the elbow, breaking the grip and catching. Okay, so she goes to hold on tight. I just pommel it. My hand faces towards my partner. And now as I shoot towards the elbow, she can't hold on anymore. I switch to I gain the top hand position, and we access our partner's wrist. Okay, and this can be a variety of different positions. Most of the time when you're looking to create the illusion, you're going for your partner's neck, and then you switch to a top pommel where you gain the top hand positioning, and we're ready to go into attacks. Okay, so just the idea of pommeling around your partner's hands, whether it's before she intercepts your hands or after she has a grip where she just can't hold on physically, even if she holds tight, we can always pommel around and catch our partner's hand like so
And now we're ready to go in and look to trap.
So now let's look at a way that we can use a top pommel to acquire a double cross wrist right from the beginning as our partner has defensive hands without even initially clearing my partner's primary defensive hand. All right, so we're going to be down on the underhook side once again.
Partner has defensive hands in place. Normally, our opening gambit is to separate our partner's primary defensive hand from my wrist and then go into all of our attacks from here. This time, what we're going to look to do is we're going to look to reach with my right hand all the way through and underneath to my partner's top arm. This is not a question of how long your arms are. It's a question of what your head positioning is. The further my head is away from my partner's and the further my shoulder is away from my partner's, the harder it's going to be, strong hands, to access my partner's top form in a meaningful way. So I have to make sure that before I do this, I connect my ear to my partner's ear and my shoulder, my front of my shoulder to the back of my partner's shoulder. If I try to reach my partner's top form here, just my fingertips reach. This is no good. So what I want to make sure of is that I connect 1, my ear to her ear, and 2, my shoulder to her shoulder. This ensures that number 1, I have perfect head positioning, so when she goes to bring her head to the floor to escape, it's impossible. And number 2, I can get a strong bite on the top of her forearm here. So now I pommel my hand to the top of her forearm, and I just roll my wrist forwards as I take my hand up as far as I can towards her chest. Obviously, it's not going to be that far because the primary defensive hand's in place. Once she goes to make a strong body, I can easily peel this grip off, like so. And now we switch to a single cross wrist. Now from here, she has a primary defensive hand in place. We hit a top pommel where we shoot our hand through towards the elbow. We take a double cross, we split the hands. And now we're back to square one with a double cross, and we're ready to go into our finishes. Okay, so she has 2 defensive hands in place. If my head's out here somewhere, you can never access the forearm in a meaningful way. Even though I'm much bigger than her, my arms are much longer, you can never peel the forearm off. But the second my head comes ear to ear and my shoulder connects to hers, now when I reach through to the forearm, I take my 2 elbows together the best I can, and I shoot through. Now when she goes to hold on tight, I raise my left hand the best I can, I pommel again. Pinky down, my palm towards my own body, and now when she goes to hold on, I just roll my right wrist forwards, and the hands slip off every time. Now we catch, 1, we pommel through, palm in, pinky down, we shoot towards the elbow, and around, we catch, and we split. Okay, so what it'll look like, she's in, we come through, and now we're ready to trap our partner's hands. All right, so we use top pommels, methods of top pommels to get through and get to a double cross, to trap our partner's 2 hands, to get to a 1 versus none, and then to a win.
All right, so let's talk about finishing now on the underhook side. Like I said, it's going to be harder to actually extract the elbow to lock in a full strangle from the underhook side. All right. With that being said,
when I actually trap my partner's arms, if I can get underneath my partner's jaw, I always finish with a single hand, with a garrote, like so. So now, if I'm underneath my partner's chin, there's no reason to risk letting go of my partner's hand to try to come up to an elbow, risk losing your head positioning, risk her coming out and getting her shoulders to the floor. There's no reason to risk all of this to lock my hands if a single arm will suffice. I can strangle my partner right from here. Okay? So assuming we can get underneath our partner's jaw from the underhook side, I always recommend staying with a single arm to strangle rather than risking locking my arms and having things go wrong. Okay? If, on the other hand, I have to go over my partner's jaw, then I always recommend risking losing your partner, because now you have a real chance of finishing your partner, but you can't strangle with a single arm from here because you're not underneath your partner's neck. The only way you can finish a single arm rear naked with the garrote is by being underneath your partner's jaw and having a full connection of your hands, your arms to the neck. But if you have to strangle with the jaw in place, now we have to find a way to build to an elbow, get your hand out, and actually lock a full rear naked and finish. Okay, so just the idea behind strangling here, if I can get under the jaw, stay with a single arm. Okay, saw multiple cases of this in EBIs and last ADCC and the finals. There's a variety of situations where you see me doing this in live competition. If, on the other hand, I have to come through and lock over the jaw, now we have to find ways to actually get up, lock our hands, and go in for a full rear naked with our hands locked. Okay, so if we can get under the jaw, stay with a single hand. If we go over the jaw, switch to two hands. So now we're going to look at how to actually get underneath our partner's jaw. I talked about this in the Turtle series as well, but I'll talk about it again here. There are two favorite ways to get underneath our partner's jaw. Right? One is called a phoenix eye, okay, where I take my thumb and I place it in the middle joint of my index finger and I form this shape here, okay, called a phoenix eye. That's why John calls it a phoenix eye because it's a famous move in karate, like in old Taekwondo videos, you can look it up. Right? They call it the phoenix eye, and this is what John uses to get underneath the jaw. For me, this isn't my preferred method because my thumbs are both broken in half in the middle joint multiple times. So if I'm fighting against someone and they turn the wrong way, it pushes my index finger into my thumb and like almost re-breaks my thumb off my body, like every single time I try it. So this isn't my preferred method, but it is a great method, assuming that you have thumbs that can actually handle being bent in half. Right? But just for me, it's not my method of choice. So we'll go over my method in a second. But the idea behind the phoenix eye is that your fingers and hand and wrist function as a knife. A knife cutting through butter or any other material starts with a very fine edge and then builds to a thicker and wider edge at the top. Okay, so it starts very thin and then gets bigger, and at the top it's very thin. It's the same thing with your fingers. Your fingers are a fine edge, then your hand is the middle of the knife, then your wrist is the top part of the knife, and then your forearm is the very top of the knife. Okay, so you start with a very fine edge, and then you build to a peak. To get underneath my partner's jaw initially, I need to have my hand coming in behind my partner's jawline. Okay? There are key insertion points all around your partner's body. Okay, as we talked about, inserting my heel into the pocket of my partner's hip. Okay, the pocket of your partner's hip is a key insertion point. Another key insertion point is directly behind my partner's jawline, underneath the ear. Okay, if I start anywhere,
You guys, we gotta do this side because the side is felt up.
sorry. All right, if I start anywhere in front of my partner's jawline, I was gonna do it on the side, just break her neck. That's what I was looking for, but unfortunately it didn't happen. If I start anywhere in front of my partner's jawline and she tucks her head, it won't be possible to get initially started underneath your partner's chin. There's a key insertion point behind the jawline, which makes it easy for me to take the knuckle of my index finger and insert in like so. So now, as my finger runs down my partner's jawline and it gets to my partner's chin, now we move from the fine edge of the knife to a thicker part of the knife. We flatten our hand. Now we finger walk across my partner's body, and now our fingers, the meat of our hand is underneath our partner's chin. Now we walk a little bit further, now our wrist is underneath our partner's chin. Now we walk a little bit further, and our forearm is underneath our partner's chin. And now we walk a little bit further, and the thickest part of our forearm is completely underneath our partner's jaw, and we're in, ready to go into attacks. Okay? So we use a phoenix eye to start with the fine edge of a blade behind our partner's jawline, the key insertion point, to be able to get first in underneath my partner's jaw, down to my partner's chin, then we flatten the hand, then we finger walk, finger walk, finger walk, finger walk, finger walk, now the meat of the hand, now the wrist, now the forearm, now the thicker part of the forearm,
and now we can effectively finish our partner. Okay, so that is the first method, using the Phoenix Eye to get underneath your partner's jaw. It's a great method. You can see being used by all of our teammates to get underneath our partner's jaw. Again, it's not my preferred method. If you look at my competition footage, you see me using a different method, which we'll look at right now. My method is when my partner has their chin tucked. I take my wrist and I physically glue it to my partner's chin, like so. Okay, with the idea that with the rotation of my hand, I can get my partner to raise the chin up and down. This allows me to flick my partner's chin up when my pinky turns down, and then to quickly flick my wrist back into a position where it's underneath my partner's chin when I flick my pinky back up, like so. And now, as I go back up, I can finger walk across and get to my partner's shoulder. So she has chin down, like so. I start initially with my wrist lined up with my partner's chin and my palm facing away, my pinky up towards the ceiling. When I rotate my pinky down towards the floor and my palm faces my partner's chest, now it raises her chin. And all I need is the space. All I need is to create the space, the height of my wrist to get underneath my partner's chin. Okay, so all I need is that much space. If I can do that, I'm underneath my partner's chin and I'm ready to strangle. So as I rotate my palm towards my partner's chest, I flick back in the opposite direction quickly, and now underneath my partner's jaw. And now from here, once I'm underneath, I walk across. You can see this in multiple ones of my matches, ADCC 2019, finals match I did it. So we're in here. The chin's down, I may take a few times. I may miss a few times, and miss a few times, and then eventually I get underneath. And now from here, we can walk across easily, and we're through. So my method is a little bit different, where I use a rotation of my hand to raise the chin, and I pommel my hand underneath the chin. So palm facing away, pinky up, palm facing towards my partner, pinky down to get my partner's chin raised, and then I flick back in the opposite direction to lower my wrist back underneath the jaw. And now from here, once I'm underneath the chin, that's all I need. And then I walk back, and now we're ready to strangle. So now we're going to use one of these two methods, whichever you prefer, to get underneath your partner's chin to get to a strangulation with a garrote. Right? A garrote is something that people used to kill people with a wire cord, where they would go behind people and strangle them to death. Right? That's why John calls it a garrote. So we're using a garrote, a single arm rear naked, to finish our partner, assuming we can get underneath our partner's jaw. Okay, so now we're underneath our partner's jaw. We're on the underhook side. We managed to trap our partner's arm, and from here we're ready to go in. All right. Now, if we don't trap our partner's arm, just know it's already difficult to get underneath our partner's jaw from here. It's going to be very hard to actually lock a strangle from the underhook side if you don't actually trap their arms. Okay, that's why it's considered the weak side, because it's almost impossible to strangle your partner if you don't trap their arms. But if you trap their arms, you know what you're doing. It's very effective. Okay, so we get underneath the jaw, however we want to, and now we walk our hand up like so, and we cover our partner's shoulder with our hand, and our hand with our own chin. Now we come in, and we look to control our either partner's wrist or the meat of our partner's hand. Okay, whenever we control our partner's hand, it's very difficult for your partner to extend out of this if we can control our partner's actual hand. All right. For the grip breaks, most of what we're doing is we control the wrist. But if she extends out and away from here, now she can start reaching up and pulling my hand down. Okay. So we control the wrist to break the grips. We're going in. My partner has control of my wrist. I control her wrist, and I separate the grips. When it's time to actually control my partner's hand for the finish, most of the time, both on the underhook and the overhook side, I want to control the meat of my partner's hand. Okay, so now we're starting to get really advanced. It started basic, and now we're building. So now when she goes to extend her hand away, it's very, very difficult now. Whereas if I have the wrist and she goes to extend, very easy. Same on the overhook side. So we come in here, I go to break my partner's hands off, and now as I get a strangle up on top, I look to climb down to my partner's
hand. So now when she goes to break that grip, that's not an easy thing to do. Okay. Whereas if I have the wrist and she goes to extend, it's pretty easy from there. Okay. So we're always looking to climb to the meat of our partner's hand when available. When we're looking to control our partner's hand for the finish. When I'm looking to grip break, I mostly work with the wrists here. Now we play. We move to the hands. Okay. So we control our partner's hand. We cover our chin. We cover our hand with our own chin. We trap our partner's arm. Now the finish from here is a rotation of our left elbow over our left shoulder. So we pull the left elbow behind our left shoulder, and that's what gives us a strong finish. We activate the large muscle groups. I don't just squeeze with my bicep. Okay, it has almost no effect. I activate the large muscle groups of my body by bringing my hips forward, bringing my chest forward. Okay, so there's a tension running through our body with the hips coming forward, the chest coming forward, and now I rotate my left elbow behind the back, and that's what gives me strong strangulations for the win. Okay, so rotation of the elbow, activating the large muscle groups of your body. The lat muscle, the hips, the chest coming forward, and that's what gives you the finish. You're extending your body into a straight line, and that's where you get the win.
All right, so last but not least, we'll look at the mandible strangle. When we're on the underhook side, but we can't manage to get our hand underneath our partner's jaw, so we have to unlock, or we have to manage to lock our hands in a full rear naked to be able to actually finish our partner, right? So this is assuming that I can't get underneath my partner's jaw, and I end up in a position where I'm here. This is going to mean that I'm going to have to lock my two hands together and go for a full rear naked in order to actually finish my partner. Okay. Now, the issue is, well, like I said, if we have a hand underneath our partner's jaw, then we lock your hands. Right? If my hand's not underneath my partner's jaw, the issue is, in order to extract my right hand, I have to take my right elbow to the axis that my shoulder line lies on. And that right now is impossible because when I go to extract my right elbow, it runs into the floor. If I try to move away from my partner to pull my elbow free, then I relinquish head positioning, and now she can scoot out and start her escape. So what am I to do here? Whenever I see a situation like this, I immediately look to take my elbow out. I flare my elbow out, and that allows me to pull myself up to my elbow. The big mistake that people make is they try to pull themselves up right from here. You're activating your abs, and it's very difficult to do. But when I flare my right elbow out like so, it makes it incredibly easy now for me to pull myself up. And now that I can pull myself up, now my elbow and my shoulder line lie in the same axis. Only now can I extract my hand, because now, number one, I don't relinquish head positioning, and number two, my elbow's in perfect position where now from here, I can pommel my hand from in front of my partner's wrist to behind her back, and now as I fall, we can lock in a full strangle. And now from here, once again, we finish with the mandible up and over the jaw. It takes a little bit longer to strangle your partner because you have more mass to cover. You not directly on your partner's carotid arteries. You have to push the jaw back into the carotid in order to finish, but you will get full finishes with the mandible over the time span, and we can finish our partner easily. I'm not going to do it because their jaws hurt, but you can get strong finishes with mandible strangles up and over the jaw. And there's plenty of examples of this in competition of people actually going unconscious. It's a strangle. It's not a crank. There are documented footage of people going unconscious from this. It's very commonly known. It's a full strangle and not a crank. All right. So in case there's any confusion there. So mandible strangles are for when I can't get underneath my partner's jaw. If I can get underneath my partner's jaw, then we just finish with one hand with the garrote. If not, then we move to a mandible strangle. So we get all the way across our partner's center line like so. We get our hand into proper position. And now we have to pull ourselves up to an elbow to get our shoulders on the same axis as our elbow. So if I just pull myself up from here, it's impossible. If I flare my elbow out first and now pull myself up, now my elbow and my shoulder form one straight line. Now my hand comes out, it goes behind my partner's back,
And now as I fall, my fingertips shoot right into my bicep, and we lock up. And now from here, we finish with a strong mandible strangle over the course of 10 to 20 seconds, and we get an extremely strong finish over our partner's jaw. So if we're underneath our partner's jaw, we go garrote, single arm. If we're over our partner's jaw, we come out and we go with a full rear naked, locked in place. If at any point, whether it be from the underhook or the overhook side, my partner manages to catch my wrist, for example, and start to pull my wrist down, I can use a palm-to-palm grip to put a wedge behind her shoulder. So now, as she goes to pull my hand down, there's a wedge behind the shoulder, and I can use that to strip the grip off and punch my hand in. Whether it's from the underhook or the overhook side, so for example, I can't get underneath her jaw, or I can't get underneath her jaw, whatever the case is, she grabs the grip on my wrist with whatever hand, I can use a palm-to-palm grip to put a wedge behind her shoulder. Now when she goes to strip my hand off, she's pulling my own hand into the back of her shoulder. When she goes to pull that hand down, she can't. And now when I'm ready, I can make a transition to a full strangle. Okay? So whether it be in the overhook side, or your partner's trying to pull your hand down, you can always go palm to palm. And now as she goes to pull the hand down, we make a transition where we lift the elbow and cover hand to hand and punch it in. Or on the underhook side rather, we come through. As her hand goes to reach my hand and goes to pull my hand down, we come in with a grip like so. So when she goes to pull that hand off, it's difficult. Now as we fall, we turn the hand over and we go in palm to palm, or palm to the back of the hand rather. So as she goes to pull that hand down, she pulls it into her own shoulder. Now as we fall, our hand meets the top of our hand. She has a strong grip on the wrist. Presumably, she can only get to my wrist. And as she goes to pull that hand down, we go hand over hand. And as she goes to pull the wrist now, the hand's reinforced by my own hand. And we can punch that hand in for a strangle and get to a win. Okay? So, some interesting concepts there with the mandible strangle, assuming we can't get a hand underneath our partner's hand. Or underneath our partner's chin, rather. All right, guys, so I don't even know how many hours this is going to end up being. Probably, with a rolling footage, over 10, if I had to assume. We've covered pretty much every option. We've gone control base first, how to control and reclaim our partner's back when they're almost escaped, whether it be on the overhook side, clearing the bottom hook first, the top hook first, or the head and shoulders first. The underhook side, the bottom hook first, top hook first, or the head and shoulders first. We went from early recoveries into late recoveries where we feel like there's absolutely no chance of us recovering, but we still managed to get back to our partner's back. And then we went into finishes in the back, both from the overhook and the underhook side. There's a couple times where either the memory and the camera filled up or the camera overheated. We have to film some or edit some clips together. So if one clip ends and I'm talking over here, then I end up a few inches over. I'm sorry if that happened. We have less than optimal filming conditions right now. Everything's locked down. I have terrible hair. We have a little 10 by 10 mat that's sprung out in the middle of some random place right now. But I know that everyone's stuck inside, and I wanted to give you guys content. We had a couple of DVDs, instructionals that were almost finished, but not completely finished. So I wanted to, we have the rolling footage for the back. We have half of open guard done and the rolling footage and commentary for open guard done. So we have a couple of things that we had completely done, but I wanted to get, at least something out for you guys in April. Cause I know we're all going to be locked down for the next few months. So I wanted to get something, out there so you guys can study. So if it's a little bit, botched here and there where one clip is supposed to be one clip, but there's a break somewhere in the middle because the camera overheated, or we might flip a memory card, or someone made a noise, or something happened. But I did my best for you guys. We're gonna edit it obviously, and I'm gonna proof it all and make sure it's good before it's released. But thank you guys for watching.
All the stuff that I do, you can be seen in competition. Not so much the back recovery stuff, because most of the time when I get people's backs, they never really get close to getting out. So you see a lot of my early recoveries. But in the rolling footage, you'll see a lot of the late recoveries that I'm doing, because I'm allowing people to escape and not just trying to finish them. It's not the finals of ADCC, obviously. But all the finishes, all the fighting from the underhook and the overhook side are all, bread and butter. What you see me do in competition is what's happening in the instructional. Like I said, I do this to the best guys in the world. Statistically, I have the best no-gi back attacks ever in history. Hopefully this is, you can see clearly that what I'm teaching you guys is being used in the highest level guys in the world. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed during the lockdown. Thank you to BJJ Fanatics and Michael Zenger for making this happen. Thank you to our secret videographer for the day for working and helping us through this, and of course to Sunny for enduring what has been well over 20 hours of pure misery, getting your back attacked and being the best UK that I could ask for. So thanks, guys.